A Prop 12 fix in the Farm Bill, trade negotiations that overcome significant foreign tariff and non-tariff barriers, and year-round H-2A visas to combat ongoing labor challenges. What does the National Pork Producers Council have on their agenda this legislative session? NPPC CEO Bryan Humphreys joined us last week to share more details on policy progress and the challenges ahead. Welcome, Bryan, and thank you for joining us today.
Appreciate the opportunity. You listed out a lot of things we have going on. Looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. Before we jump into our discussion, I'd like to remind the audience tuning in, if you have any questions for Bryan, you can be sure to place those there in the chat or in your social media channels, and we'll be sure to get those over to him. So, Bryan, let's start with Farm Bill 2.0. The House kept the Save Our Bacon Act in there. There's some Democratic opposition in the Senate. What's NPPC expecting here as far as the bill's timeline?
Yeah, so I've been in this role for just about 5 years, and I don't know that there's been an interview that you and I've talked. We haven't talked about a need for fixing Prop 12, and so happy to see some progress here in the House version of the Farm Bill. And for the folks that are tuning in today, just as a reminder, this is, yes, a win for the pork industry, but it's a win for agriculture and probably more importantly, a big win for the American consumers. If we can get this to the Senate and we can get this to the president's desk, this prevents activist groups from using states like California to dictate outside of their borders and tell farmers in Iowa and Nebraska how to raise their pigs. And for the consumer, impact food prices, right? We've seen a 20% increase in the price of pork in the state of California since Prop 12 went into effect, and a 20% decrease in the consumption of pork products. So yeah, it's good for the American pork producer, but it's better for the American consumer. And to your point, made it through the House. Very pleased and thankful for the sponsors of the bill with Ashley Hinson and of course Chairman G.T. Thompson and everybody who voted to move the Farm Bill forward. And we're looking forward to the conversation in the Senate as we go forward here. And we're hopeful, and we know that Senator Bozeman understands the need for a Farm Bill to be done, and that rural America, American agriculture deserves a Farm Bill to be done. I don't think any senator wants to go home this fall and tell farmers that they didn't deserve the stability and the business continuity that comes with passing an American Farm Bill. I just don't think that's going to play real well. So I think there's a desire and need to get this done, not just by the members, but to support rural America here. So,
yeah, we always talk about Prop 12 being fixed with this Farm Bill, but it would nullify Massachusetts Question 3 as well.
mm-hmm.
The opposition's been claiming that this fix would also wipe out 500 state agricultural laws across the country that protect small farmers and ranchers. What's NPPC's position there?
Yeah, you forgive me for smiling. This is a very serious issue. And our opponents on the other side have a tendency to use, I'll call them bumper sticker solutions for thesis level problems here. A couple of things. First, let's remember that we're talking about the U.S. Constitution here. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3. Congress has the power to regulate commerce among the several states. This is Congress's authority to regulate the commerce between states, not the state of California, not the state of Massachusetts, but the U.S. Congresses. Now, to your question, and they are referencing a Harvard Law School Animal Law and Policy Program report. Now, Harvard put out a couple of these. One, I believe it was in 2023 regarding the EATS Act, and then they updated a version in reference to Save Our Bacon, which is what's included in the Farm Bill and what we're trying to get through the Senate as well. And let me be clear, the updated version does not say that Save Our Bacon will overturn 500 or 600 or several hundred laws. What it does say is that it will overturn Prop 12 in Q3, which is what we're after. And it goes on to explain that what any, I think, civics class graduate could tell you is that laws can be challenged in the courts or lobbied to be changed. And so, yeah, we agree with that. And that's what we're trying to do here is to change this law. A couple of things. If we take a look at that report and recognize that it doesn't say it's going to overturn it, what it does say is that this bill, Save Our Bacon, has come a long way in working to defend animal health laws across states and other valuable state laws. And I think we should take a moment in agriculture to thank the sponsors of the bill, the folks who wrote this bill, the folks that put the time into researching, understanding the issues and the concerns, and then making sure it was covered. Ashley Hinson from Iowa, G.T. Thompson from Pennsylvania, and obviously all the other co-sponsors of this bill really dug into this and said, okay, we are trying to protect interstate commerce, the movement of goods across state lines. How do we do that while protecting all these other laws? And that's what they've done here. And I believe that report acknowledges that. So I think to your question, it's a great question. We get it all the time. And I think that's the benefit of us having these types of intellectual conversations to get past the bumper sticker slogans and into the actual weeds and understanding, one, what the report says that they're referencing, and two, what the law actually does and doesn't do. And that's why I'm confident we're going to get through the Senate on this as well, because when we can sit down and talk logically through this, I'm still a believer that logic and common sense will prevail here.
Absolutely. Well, let's move the conversation to trade. U.S. pork has seen some progress here under the current administration. What would you say have been some of the more significant wins for the industry thus far?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, first I have to acknowledge that this year export of pork is worth about $67 a pig right now. That'd be up a little bit from last year. Everybody I think here knows that we export somewhere between 25 and 30% of our product year over year, and so it's been a good year for exports overall. But as we talk about the current administration and some of the wins we've had here recently, I think we need to start with Indonesia. Been some eliminations on tariffs, absolutely, on specific products, but perhaps more importantly for this industry is the elimination of certain non-tariff barriers, quantitative restrictions, import licensing, plant-by-plant approvals, things that have been a real challenge for our ability to get product into Indonesia and serve the customer base there. Also, Taiwan, while not approved yet, and we're incredibly hopeful that their legislature sees the same value in coming into compliance with Codex and other areas. But in that agreement, and that we hope they approve, a 50% reduction in tariffs over the next few years, adoption of Codex standards on MRLs or maximum residue levels as it relates to ractopamine. End of border testing was included in there, and then very similar to Indonesia, a recognition of USDA FSIS plants as opposed to doing plant-by-plant audits. And I guess I didn't mention this, Indonesia, Taiwan, certainly big deals. Included in the Taiwan agreement as well as Malaysia and Cambodia, and I know Cambodia is on a bit of a weird spot right now, but in all of those agreements, one big thing for us is the recognition that within a few months, if the United States were to break with something like African swine fever, each of these countries would recognize what are called protection zones that would allow us to start working through and beginning to export to those countries again. And so oversimplification here probably, but in each of those agreements, those countries have agreed to recognize our disease response plan and our ability to create protection zones and still be able to move product. And for your listeners, I think with everything going on in the world, and talk about pseudorabies if you want today, the value of that as we talk about a foreign animal disease and what that could mean for our industry is tremendous. So been some pretty big wins there.
Yeah, definitely a critical part of a trade agreement there.
Mhm.
What about trade challenges? What ones are sticking out still as far as tariffs and non-tariff barriers that we're facing maybe in some key markets?
Yeah, and obviously, as we record this, the president has just returned from China, and certainly hopeful for some outcome there. But as we talk more specifically about individual countries and where we could hopefully see some progress this year, Vietnam and their restriction on white offal. And happy to talk to folks if they have questions about what that means. But I don't want to get too nerdy here, but a few years ago, Vietnam rescinded their ban on white offal, only to require a bunch of paperwork in order to allow companies to import it. A lot of our companies have completed that paperwork, but as far as I'm aware, nobody's been given access to bring that product in. Not a lot of reasons for it, and yet would provide a real opportunity for our industry to export, yes. But also, given the health challenges that Vietnam is facing with their herd, it seems like a tremendous opportunity if we can work through that with our administration to gain access to that market. I'd also be remiss, Ann, if I didn't mention the Philippines. Been some progress there with a tariff reduction through 2028, in quota 15%, out of quota 25%, excuse me. Great progress, but there's still some other things that we could work on there as well as we move forward. Again, recognizing their health challenges and our ability to be able to help their consumers there fill that void. So some opportunities, especially in Southeast Asia.
Well, we need to probably mention too the current restrictions from Canada and Mexico on a certain few products due to the pseudorabies detection. What's the latest on PRV?
Yeah, and again, we're recording this on the 15th here, and so as we recognize that, a couple of things. We've got a couple of countries that have are presenting some challenges with access or importation of live swine, semen, and offal or variety meat. And a couple of things as we go through that, the pigs in Iowa that were at the facility that had tested positive have all been euthanized. The site has been cleaned up, and all the sites within the quarantine zone have been tested and tested negative as of what we heard yesterday, and done so incredibly quickly. And so I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to the outstanding folks at USDA, but also at the Iowa Department of Agriculture Land Stewardship, Jeff Kaizen, excuse me, State Veterinarian Jeff Kaizen and Secretary Mike Ney, and their leadership here to get those pigs tested and get those quarantines moving as quickly as possible to protect the rest of the herd and the rest of the industry. Yeah, you're right. We have some folks that are still trying to understand the challenges here with pseudorabies from an export component. But boy, Ann, if I was our trading partners, I would take a moment to realize how quickly we responded as an industry, how quickly the quarantines went up, how quickly the testing was done and the negative tests were back. Maybe it's just me, but if I were them, I'd have more confidence in the American system to handle a disease like this than less. I think we've done an outstanding job, and if I were them, I'd be sending folks here to learn how well it was responded to. So challenges with Canada, challenges with Mexico. We'll continue to work through that and provide them the update and resources they need to fix those issues.
So let's switch gears here to labor. Any relief or legislation in sight to address the current rural workforce challenge?
Yeah, for the folks in the audience today, every farm I'm on, and I'm guessing it's the same for everybody here today, access to labor, access to reliable labor is at least in the top 3 issues or challenges that they're facing on their farm. So we do recognize the importance of this and finding a solution and moving forward. Obviously, we talked about Farm Bill and Prop 12. I mentioned Chairman G.T. Thompson of the House Ag Committee. He has been out front working on this issue. He's been meeting with members of both parties, with all of the ag groups, us included, and asking for feedback on how to make a solution here. Just as a reminder for our folks, the pork industry doesn't have access to H-2A visas because we need somebody year round. The pork industry is a year round industry. And so as the chairman is looking at something like an updated Farm Worker Modernization Act, we hope and we're pushing for access for year-round H-2As for the pork industry as a solution there. The chairman was pretty clear that he wanted to get the Farm Bill off of the House floor and moved before he introduced his bill. And so we're looking for that at any time now. We've been in almost all of those conversations pushing on, and we're hopeful to see something making progress here this year. But for the listeners, clearly a big one for us. Now, I'd be remiss. I run a lobbying shop here. I'd be remiss, and if I didn't make a call out, if there's folks listening here who labor is a concern, which I'm guessing it's every one of us, don't hesitate to pick up the phone and call your member of Congress and remind them that we need a solution to ag labor and an updated Farm Worker Modernization Act. And if they want to know who specifically to call, let me know. I'd be happy to help them target specifically their calls.
Continuing a little bit down that labor line, more on the processing side, what's next regarding line speeds and making that increase permanent? I know there's been still some opposition about the safety of that. Where are we at with that?
Yeah, first let's talk about the safety. The reports that have come out said that line speed doesn't have an impact on that. We know that working in packing plants, just like working on farms, can be challenging. We respect and understand that. And as we go through this rulemaking process and with USDA, obviously worker safety is of the utmost concern, and we're committed to that. Now, to the next steps, the proposed rule and comment period is closed. USDA will go back and they'll review all of those comments, thousands of comments, and make sure that their final proposed rule addresses the concerns within those when and where appropriate, and come out with what's called a final proposed rule with then an implementation and a final date. And so while I'm hesitant to give a timeline, it takes time for USDA to go through all of those comments and then ensure that their proposed rule is up to date on all of those. And so they'll be going through that process, but it will take some time. And we need to be understanding of that because, again, our goal is to protect the workers within the plants and to ensure business continuity and to make sure this is done right and appropriately. And we support that as USDA goes through that process. When this is done, though, I look forward to it because it's a big deal for the U.S. pork industry. And we've seen reports out there that if this went away, it would cost our industry about $10 a pig. And so the need to get it done and get it through is a big deal for us. It also, quite honestly, and puts us commensurate with other countries. Most of European countries don't have a line speed on their packing plant. And so it puts us at a more competitive level with the rest of the country. So next steps are the USDA reviewing and putting a final proposed rule together and hopefully getting it wrapped up as quickly as possible.
How about FAD prevention and preparedness? It looks like we had some wins here in the Farm Bill and the Appropriations Bill. Are we closer to seeing U.S. ship move from a pilot to policy?
Yeah, I sure hope so. So let's maybe break this down, if I could, and into a couple of categories. First is the Farm Bill, and while we've already covered Prop 12, there are 12 other titles. There are 12 titles in the Farm Bill. And a couple of areas in there that we didn't talk about earlier in the Farm Bill, but feral swine eradication within the Farm Bill was $150 million a year for 5 years for feral swine eradication. And given the challenges that we've seen, obviously, with pseudo rabies, and clearly points to the need for that as we move forward. Also, what's included in the Farm Bill was language discussing the Beagle Brigade. And for your folks on the webinar today, those are the beagles you see when you fly back internationally that are smelling suitcases. They're also at all the ports of entry checking to make sure that folks aren't bringing in illegal goods, specifically from countries that may be positive for foreign animal diseases. And so an increase in capacity and codifying that language is included in the Farm Bill. Also in the Farm Bill was language that directed USDA to continue negotiating with our trading partners protocols for a foreign animal disease response. Very similar to what we talked about with Malaysia, Cambodia, Taiwan. How do we continue to negotiate those protocols with our trading partners that in the event of a foreign animal disease, where we're able to quarantine it and protect the herd, that we're still able to export out of the country. To your other question on the Swine Health Improvement Program, or SHIP, that came out of House Appropriations language, and very fortunate there, and really appreciate the leadership of the House of Representatives that included an extra $500,000, $495,000 to be exact, into funding for SHIP. That puts us at just about $1.5 million for that program. But it also included what's called report language that goes with the bill, talking about how this program needs to be codified and move forward with a federal advisory committee. And so very, very happy to see that. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, thank you all. I know you ran a story from Kelsey on our team about the value of the SHIP program and what that means to move forward. And so for the folks here, if you haven't had a chance to see that, National Hog Farmer put that out in late April, if I remember right. And so again, thank you for that, but it also points to the need to keep the discussion around SHIP moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking we did a global hog industry virtual conference, I think 4 years ago, and we're talking
Yeah.
about ship and how we could take what they've done on the poultry side and move
Yep.
ahead on the swine side, and we're still talking about it now. So, how
Policy
about
takes time.
yeah,
Policy takes time. Yep.
yep. How about the Make America Healthy movement, the ultra processed foods debate? What are some key areas NPPC is following here?
Absolutely. First, let's take a moment to celebrate, right? Meat, protein, the top of the food pyramid, where we have argued it should be for a long time, right? And the some folks will say the meat is having a moment. I completely disagree with that. I think meat is back in the mainstream. We talk about high protein diets. We're talking about low carb diets. We're talking about all these things. Meat is back where it is supposed to be at the top of the food pyramid, and we're very glad to see that. And so there's some benefits to this Make America Healthy movement and what's being done there that we're very excited about. But we also need to be careful, right? We don't want to throw out the bacon with the grease here as we move forward and talk about ultra processed foods. And we understand the desire for UPS or ultra processed foods to talk about a definition here of what this could look like. But we need to be incredibly careful here as we move forward because one of the benefits of the American food system, the system that we have built over decades and generations, is it's one of the safest in the world. And it's one of the safest in the world because of food safety, preservatives, and our ability to utilize science to build that out. And so as we go through and talk about food additives and chemicals that are used, we need to remember the value of those preservatives and maintaining food safety through all of this. And for that, NPPC is continually meeting with USDA and the folks at Health and Human Services or HHS and FDA to help them understand the modern food system and the impact of what these things do for shelf life and shelf stability, preservatives, and ensuring that we, again, keep food safe for our folks. And so a lot going on here, a lot to unpack. But again, to the point, as we talk about pork and bacon and sausage, pork chops, ribs, they're not in the same category as some of the snack foods out there. And so we need to be very careful how these definition works. And I sure hope, to my point about not throwing out the bacon with the grease here, that we could look at separate definitions for meat and meat categories because of the value they bring to the diet as designated and outlined by the dietary guidelines.
What about environmental regulations? Under this current
Mhm.
administration, there seems to be a move to cut back some of that bureaucratic tape. Any wins here? Any challenges we still need to address?
Yeah, and forgive me, I might shift the narrative a bit. Um, I think the administration would like to use the term of cutting red tape and things, but from an NPPC perspective, we're really chasing common sense solutions. We are full on helping to protect the environment, and I think the track record of the U.S. pork industry and what we have done in agriculture clearly demonstrates that desire. Our folks live. I grew up on the farm where my father and my brother still work. And so the environment is big to everybody here. And as we work with this administration on some more reasonable policies, there's a couple of pretty big ones I think we should point to. First, let's talk about the EPA effluent limitation guidelines. This has been about a year ago. But that was one that was going to create new standards for small and medium-sized packing plants that have not had a history of issues, but was going to essentially create new standards that would have put a number of them out of business by the EPA's own report. And we worked with the administration to take a step back, to understand the issue and the challenges, and then essentially help them better understand our concerns around it. And for us at the pork industry, our concern is a lot of these medium and small packing plants would not have been able to come into compliance, would have gone out of business, and been a huge hit for our folks in the industry that sell pigs to those plants. And so glad to see the administration walk that one back. And to get a bit more in the weeds, I think we should talk about the new proposed rule earlier this year on Section 401, as it's referred to, which is around state NPDES permits. And I don't want to get too far into some really technical stuff, but essentially previous administrations had said that in order to get a permit, which Again, if a hog farm wants to get a permit, it means they want to do things right. They want to go through the system. They want to abide by all the rules. And so what previous administrations has done would say, okay, well, in order to get this permit, we need to review what's called activity as the whole. As in, this farm that wanted to apply for a permit, with everything was on the table, from climate change to other farms in the area to other industries within the area. Essentially, this farm was going to be held accountable to things completely outside of their control. And so we worked with the administration to take a step back and say, okay, what are we trying to do here? Well, we're trying to protect the environment, but we're also trying to have business continuity and the ability to farms operate within the rules. And so as we worked with them, this administration under Lee Zeldin, who's been doing an outstanding job, it proposed a new rule that said, based on common sense and what I'd say is logic, to protect the environment and can keep farmers to have the ability to do business. It said these permits are going to be based on discharges and what is within the farmer's ability to control. So a couple of big wins there: EPA effluent, but also on MPDS permits that I think point to both an administration that wants to see business continuity, but also an administration that recognizes the need to protect the environment.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground here. Anything else you're looking forward to for the second half of 2026? What else is NPPC focused on?
Oh, wow. We didn't even talk about, let's see, 45Z, shareholder resolutions, USMCA negotiations, other foreign animal diseases, appropriations. We got a couple other things going on that we're going to be busy with the rest of the year. For the folks here, though, a couple of things I would ask everybody to watch because the Farm Bill is going to move through the Senate, and we're going to need everybody's help here to weigh in. If you haven't already called your senator and tell them that you need a Farm Bill passed, you deserve a Farm Bill to be passed, I'd sure ask you to pick up the phone and call your senator and make sure they understand that American agriculture and the U.S. pork industry expects and deserves a farm bill. For those of you who are listening, I sure hope everybody here can also make it to World Pork Expo that first week of June. I know you all will be there, and we appreciate that. But stop by the NPPC tent, say hi, and love to connect with everybody.
Absolutely. Bryan Humphreys, National Pork Producers Council, we appreciate you taking the time to join us today and sharing your insight.
Thank you for the opportunity.
We also appreciate all of you being with us. Our next session, FAD What's New with the Big Three, with Swine Health Information Center's Executive Director, Megan Niederwerder, will begin soon. For National Hog Farmer, I'm Ann Hess.